Good evening, all. It's me, Divya here, and I welcome you all to this week's Tracy Cluster webinar on the four-step solution to industrial COVID challenge. With me on the platform here is our able distinguished cardiologist, Dr. Anand Chokalingam, an associate professor of medicine, cardiovascular medicine since 2006 at the University of Missouri, United States of America. He has written extensively on an array of topics on cardiovascular diseases and cardiology and has published in print and digital media platforms. His goals are maintaining academic journal cardiology, focus on clinical imaging, teaching, researching, and exploring opportunities to expand and reach of novel self-awareness basis cardiac wellness initiatives that he had pioneered over the last 10 years. His areas of expertise include cardiac critical care, cardiac rehabilitation, cardiovascular imaging, congestive heart failure, echocardiography, prosthetic heart valves, etc. We also have our panel here with Mr. Sudhashiv, who will be coordinating the Q&A session, and Mr. Srinath Gajanan, the facilitator of this evening. Let's look forward to a hearty speech and listen to Doctor's holistic approaches now. Over to you, Doctor. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening. Vanakkam. Thanks so much for inviting me to this wonderful session. It's a privilege, and I feel like I've traveled to my hometown, Chennai, to be there in person with you for today's gathering. So I want to highlight some of the work I have done in the last 15-20 years in the next 45 minutes. So we'll see how we can summarize the findings. The disclosure today is a High Life Journey, which is an online portal we are still developing. It's going to be hopefully in the next week or two, so you can explore it, through which it might motivate you to participate a little more in a healthier lifestyle. So that is the goal, and we are making it free for anybody who wants to experiment with their own health. This is the challenge COVID has left us with currently. Increasing numbers of cases, deaths every day, and if you look at different countries, unfortunately, United States is now leading the world with the total deaths of over 1 lakh cases. And India right now is close to 5,000 cases. The interesting thing here is the case fatality rate for the number of people diagnosed compared to the number of people who die from COVID. In Italy and Belgium, it is 15%. In the US, it is about 5%. So far in India, it is much lesser in the 2 to 3% range. China has been about 5. And if you look at the deaths per 100,000 population, our country, India, has much lesser compared to much of the Western world. So this is the models that different countries have by way of options to reopen after COVID. The full reboot approach is probably suitable for New Zealand because they have close to 0 cases and minimal restrictive measures, and with limiting international travel, they may be able to restart the entire country. Widespread restarting in low-income countries is being contemplated because it is such an economic strain beyond the health issues, and the restrictions will be for vulnerable populations only and unable to rapidly build up health and testing capacity. So this may lead to more widespread restarting. Whereas the graduated approach China has embraced involves deliberate and phased incremental reopening, which is based on the disease progression in the individual locations. As of late February, Businesses considered low to medium transmission risk, such as manufacturing, construction, and retail, were permitted to restart. By end of March, 99% of large businesses had already restarted. In April, businesses with high transmission risk, including restaurants, hotels, and education, were allowed to reopen. 60% of Chinese consumers believe the worst is behind them. China's economy is reopening smoothly. However, the economic recovery is still much less vigorous. 8 weeks after the peak of the COVID infections, department store sales is at 50%, service industry sales only at 35%. Demand in preventive health care, fresh and organic foods is high for household items as well, whereas there is much lesser spending for travel, recreation, and for eating out. So, for restarting, several things have to work. As far as healthcare, the disease conditions have to show a trend towards decline. Healthcare managing capacity should improve, and virus tracking monitoring capabilities should become more robust. As far as public readiness, business preparation has to follow preventive guidelines, and the public response should embrace the new normal and try to cope with the challenging situations. If you look at the challenge of food insecurity, the percentage of people with insufficient food in the United States, it's at about 5% who have consistent or persistent need for food, and about 10% of the US population over the last few years have been insecure in the sense once or twice a week they may have to go hungry. But if you look at the COVID era, the last few months, this has spiked up significantly. Currently, in young children and families with school-going kids, this has spiked up to about 40% of the US population. If that is the situation in the US, in India, it may be as high as 80% of population not being able to secure food. So this is such a huge challenge that our world is facing economically. If you look at the entire world mortality rate in COVID, it is at about 3.5 lakhs, 350,000 deaths. But if you look at cardiovascular disease in the same time period in 2020, we are seeing more than 7 million deaths. This has been the challenge that I want to get your attention to for the next half an hour. If you look at this 4-step self-inquiry, that is what we are going to try and pay some attention to. So what is this? Why do we discuss about self-inquiry? This is the reason. Most of the Western world spends about 10% of their GDP towards healthcare. United States is head and shoulders above, spending close to 16 to 18% of its GDP towards healthcare. Where does India stand? In India, we are so far spending less than 4%. Governmental spending is at about 1.3% towards healthcare. What is health span or healthy life expectancy? This is not only the number of years we are alive, but also taking into account how many years of healthy, active life we have. Leader in the whole world is Singapore at 76 years of healthy average lifespan. US is 69 years. India is only 59 years, even in 2020. So self-inquiry is the science of higher consciousness. This came from India, and it can improve our health on an everyday basis, allowing us to celebrate today rather than wait for some other distant future or worry about the past. This way, I sincerely believe we may all be able to aim for and achieve not only lifespan but also a health span of over 100 years. For this ambitious goal, we are trying to put together concepts for high life journey, and I invite you to participate in this in the next couple of weeks. What we incorporate involves positive psychology tools, mindfulness meditation, ancient Siddha yoga techniques combined with the latest in cardiology practices. The four steps are these. First is fasting 14 hours. This you may think, oh, I can do this easily, but there are many, many people who cannot go for more than 5 to 10 hours without having some food. So 14 hours includes the time we sleep. So fasting would say start at 7 p.m. after end of dinner and go on until 9 a.m. for breakfast. So you can have a normal day, but between dinner and 9 a.m. breakfast, avoid absolutely any calories. The only thing that you can have in a fast is water if you need something to go inside. With that, we request you to practice that with gratitude. How can I be grateful for being hungry? That is the challenge, and that is I would say, the solution to finding real sustainable health. The next thing is exercise, sports, yoga, any physical activity that we can enjoy and embrace on most of the days. And at least for 20 to 30 minutes every day, if we can do this and connect with how much intensity we are able to bring to this practice. Obviously, if you have health issues, heart issues, you will have to talk to your doctor, make sure it is safe, and then slowly increase the intensity to be able to participate where you're not just casually walking, but exerting yourself, sweating some, and getting a decent workout. The third thing is a fun exercise. Let's go ahead and try that today. Most of us are at home, connected through Zoom or through this portal. The request is self-talk observation. So for the next few seconds, maybe even up to a minute, you can talk. I'm sure your voice is muted and we won't hear you in the forum. So I want you to talk whatever comes to your mind, and preferably something you're grateful about, something that is good that has happened to you maybe in the last few days or today. This chance to meet with so many of our friends and colleagues all over the world. So just spend half a minute to a minute talking aloud, but observing what you're talking. And after that, connect with that gratitude. And for another half a minute, we'll stay silent. I'll start this off. Oh, I'm grateful that I have a chance to be with these friends from India and connect with sharing some of these concepts. So I'll go silent. So let you talk to yourself for half a minute and then stay silent for the next 1 minute, feeling that gratitude, connecting with your breath, and just being there in the moment, experiencing life. Welcome back. So we'll go ahead. The last request is, I think, more imaginative in the sense the request is to do something out of your routine, some act of kindness, altruism, something that will bring a smile to somebody's face, preferably without that person knowing who did this kindness act for them. So you will not be thanked if you do it right. You don't have to spend more than a minute or maybe a couple of minutes each day if you want to volunteer for some service that is being done related to COVID or to some underprivileged organization group in your own community. Explore where you can directly contribute just a couple of minutes each day. Or you can accumulate it and do that a couple of times a week. So these are the four, I would say, cornerstones of high life, and the ability to track these is what we are offering, so that over a course of a few weeks, few months, you can see how you are faring in your own life. Nobody else is going to be aware of what you're doing, so it's up to you to explore. So that is the four-step self-inquiry. So is this self-inquiry meant for me, or is it meant for your heart patients? That question, the answer is, we have so much of risk with obesity, high blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, heart failure, heart attack, stroke. All these things continue as a vicious cycle. And in the background, we see so much mental stress, anxiety, and on top of this, now we have added COVID-related pressures. Although we have numerous medicines, surgeries, sophisticated stents, the best hospital care, we don't cure heart disease yet. We only provide some pain relief, palliation, and once a heart patient, for the most part throughout the world, people remain heart patients. But this does not have to be the case. In the United States alone, about $500 billion is being spent currently, and this is going to go up to over $1 trillion in the next 10 to 15 years. 1 in 3 deaths here happen because of heart disease. Srinath, we had a question. I don't know if that's popping up for our group. I guess we'll keep moving ahead.
Yes, the polls are popping up, Doctor. We have already issued the poll.
But I'm not able to see the answer. I can only see my
You can
screen.
see the answer on the left side of your screen where you have the polls on the left side.
Yes, yes, excellent. I got it. So many people are saying, wow, this is amazing. The answer was 90%. That is the real answer. The reason, the things we need to do is avoid cigarettes, exercise for half an hour, and eat reasonably healthy food, and take care of blood pressure and diabetes. Just take care of them. That's it. That way, 9 out of 10 heart attacks can be avoided even today. We don't need balloons, bypass surgeries if we do these simple preventive measures throughout life. In India, now cardiovascular disease has become the first and foremost reason for mortality. In 2016, prevalence is 54.5 million, accounting for 1 in 4 deaths already in India, with 23 million years of life already lost in 1990. Fast forward to 2010, this is increased by 59% to 37 million years lost. The curve in the United States is staggering. From 1960, when the obesity was at about 10%, we are seeing that it has already reached 1/3 or more of the population, and by 2030, about half the population in the United States is going to be, unfortunately, unhealthily obese. This is how we define obesity in the United States. To be normal BMI is up to 25, overweight is up to 29.9. Anybody above 30 is obese. Whereas for India, the criteria are even more stringent. Anybody with a BMI more than 25 is considered obese in India. Why are we being put through a more strict criteria? Unfortunately, South Asian, Indian people, we have much higher cardiovascular event risk. And our risk goes up when the BMI crosses 25. That is the reason this is set up as the current guideline for Indians. So that translates into waist circumference of 40 and 35 inches for men and women throughout the world. But for India, anybody with a waist pant size or waist circumference of 35 inches men and 31 inches women are already looking at risk for heart disease. So we have to really watch our weight. And more than BMI, I believe waist circumference is a more true measure of central adiposity, which is at risk for heart disease. This is a summary of all the major countries in their obesity curve. The lowest risk of obesity is seen in Japan and Korea, less than 5%. United States, again, is head and shoulders above the rest of the world at about 30-35% currently. Where is India in this graph? India, there are two Indias. Rural India is at about 11%. Unfortunately, Chennai and all the major metropolitan cities in India are currently at US levels of 30-35%. This is staggering for a country which is dealing with so much poverty overall, but in our cities we are seeing this much obesity. How do we fix these problems? I'm sure throughout these years you've come across so much of literature, so much of philosophy, so much information through the TV, newspapers, and textbooks. Everything that we read and understand is filling our mind. The question is, how do we do a simple solution on this board? It's not easy when there is so much noise. We have to find a way to connect with a deeper source. We have to clear out all this from external knowledge and connect with something deeper. We've gone back now more than 1,000,000 years to see how we came about. This we know now because of science that our ancestors evolved from our monkey brothers, and it took us every day 10 miles, which is close to 15 kilometers of walking, running, just to get food, shelter, and basically survive natural threats and disasters and predators. This is how our ancestors evolved. 10 miles is a long distance. We need Fitbit to get even a couple of miles every day now. And this is what we are faced with, information explosion. Information took 1,000 years to double, and now it is taking 1.5 years. So over the next 15-20 years, we are going to see a 1,000,000-fold increase in the amount of information that we have at our fingertips. That has left us, unfortunately, more unhealthy, I would say, because of our busy pace of life. The SAD is a diet. It is the standard American diet. The fast food, soft drink, and quick energy type of McDonald's or Burger King or many of the fast food chains in the US cater to quickly providing food. But that type of food is being embraced throughout the world now as it is more convenient. But we have to be watchful of what we are eating. Sedentary lifestyles. People are more and more lonely despite having more social media friends. So this is a simple summary of exploring 100,000 years of human evolution done by a psychiatrist here in the US. He says people are only of two types. Those that practice segmentalism, a tribal mindset, and say their physiology is more adapted to my group versus your group, trying to figure out how I can thrive, make the differences more prominent, and try to fight and cope and whatever with the conflicts about my group and your group type of tribal mindset. And there is another group of humans over the last 100,000 years who are happy. How are they happy? Because they have been able to develop strong, meaningful interpersonal relationships and have a sense of belonging with their own community and tribe. They have evolved a diet which is based on what is natural and healthy in their circumstances, and exercise is part of their life. And importantly, they connect with nature and with their own microbiome, which is the gut and microorganisms that form a part of who we are. So this type of people, they are still present in this world. I would say you can Google blue zones. You will find an island in Japan called Okinawa, Sardinia in Italy, Costa Rica, and a few other places where people are living close to 100 years or even more, and they are healthy. They don't go to retirement homes. They are still participating actively in their life with their family, with several generations living together. But that sort of life is not compatible with what we say is modern living. So that is the challenge. How can we find health in the current busy life? Can we find that the cup is half full rather than saying this is not there, that is not there? Can we stay stress free? Can we find happiness, become optimistic and alive today? So that is the question. So if you have that question, then self inquiry is for you. So what is this self inquiry? How do we practice it? It started not in the US, but it started in our country. One of the most recent proponents is Ramana Maharishi. His simple question to us is, who am I? Nan yar. Inquiry consists in retaining the mind in the self, and silence is the true teaching. Who am I will destroy all other thoughts. The stick used for stirring the fire itself gets destroyed, then will arise self-realization. Thiruvalluvar said 2500 years ago, அற்றது அறிந்து கடைபிடித்து மாறல்ல துய்க்க துவர பசித்து. He requests us to recognize what is healthy. How do we know that? By seeing if the food digested properly. And eat mindfully, carefully, and only when you're really, really hungry again. This was said so long ago. Why? Because even then, people were eating more than they needed. That is why he's saying, be careful about what you eat. 1600 years ago, Bodhidharma taught Chinese Zen philosophy and Kung Fu techniques. He is from our part of the world. He is a Tamil Buddhist monk and a prince. And he says Buddha is in your nature, and Buddha is the person who is free of plans and free of cares. I did not know about him until a movie was made recently, Era Marivu. And here we learned that there was a pandemic that was affecting a lot of Chinese, which he helped them to recover from, not only using philosophy and Siddha medicine, but also Kung Fu techniques that he had taken from our country. So we have such a rich heritage that has been forgotten over the centuries. Scientific knowledge is a cumulative growth that has been the source for society, language, and culture, and that's why every day we try to get educated, we grow in power, and aim for success. Self-inquiry is very subtle. It's more of an experience, and it starts at zero for every individual every day, and it is the reason that we may be able to achieve our individual freedom and fulfillment in life. This is what has been the basis for my, I would say, unique cardiac wellness group clinic program that we've had for the last 5 years. It's based on self-inquiry into diet, exercise, stress management, sleep, finding meaningful connection with people around us, meditative techniques, and we use all these tools on a every Friday basis as a group session, but we request people to practice it at home every day. So for 2 months, they learn these techniques to give them the confidence to cope with so many health issues, 25 medicines, 6 doctor visits, 2 surgeries being planned within the next 3 months. They still participate in this program. So all this noise in our life come at our conscious level through our logical mind. That is only the surface. Beneath the surface is where our true potential lies. 90% of our consciousness is submerged from even our access. What is the barrier that prevents us from accessing our full potential? That also is our logical mind, the thinking and willpower. In the subconscious, you will find the source for emotions, values, habits, but most importantly, our originality, the creativity, and our ability to perceive gratitude. This gratitude, I would say, is the simplest thing that would differentiate us from the animal ancestors. This perception of gratitude is the liberation that we all need to connect with And we can do this at any point in our life. Children can do this, old people can do this. My patients who are sick and about to die, same day of their death, they are able to perceive gratitude. So this anybody can perceive, no matter what our circumstances. And if we connect with our subconscious, this is the core of our subconscious. HEART, being humble throughout whatever the experience might be, connecting honestly with people around us, connecting with our own dreams and aspirations, goals sincerely every day, and reciprocating, which is giving the people around us the benefit of doubt, just like we would like them to give trust for ourselves. So all these things build the trust, which is the, I would say, the petrol or gas in our car that will allow us to move forward. Without petrol, there is no journey, right? Like that, this trust is what I would say is the basis for our life itself. That trust not only in people around us and circumstances around us, but also in ourselves. And this is a simple framework. Taking, for instance, diet, what we eat. The blue circle outside is where we are today, eating whatever we think is our routine diet. But my request to you is to explore, going inside yourself, what you could try a little more healthy each day, as far as food choice, food quantity, and whether we can fast a little bit here and there. These different things we can try until we arrive at a point for today, which is healthy, which is correct and suitable for our today's health requirements. So this is a journey that I would request you to participate in every day. This is so liberating, I would say, and enlightening for us. So this High Life program, which I've done now for 5 years, for an hour on Fridays from 12 to 1, involves 30 minutes of education on various topics, 15 minutes of question answers, and 15 minutes of some mindfulness practice. Today, because we are doing a 1 hour session, we had only 1 minute to practice silence. Usually we do that for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we request people to do it every day at home for different techniques. So for the body, we teach hunger and gratitude for it, and mindful eating methods, and we teach natural ketosis. This is not keto diet. And mind, we simply say 80% of individual's health is in the individual himself. Only 20% science can do. Balloons, stents, surgeries, all the medicines we have can contribute 20%, but still 80% of our individual's health is with the individual. We teach not only exercise, but encourage people to participate in sports and understand what flow is, ikigai. I don't know how much time we'll have to go through all those details, but I'll try to touch upon these things today. Altruism, we talked about it, how we can incorporate a few minutes of doing some kindful goodness gestures. My patients who are 70, 80 years old with heart attack, sometimes back surgery, they've been amputated because of prior participation in war, and they just come in a wheelchair. How can they volunteer, help? Yes, everybody can find somewhere that they can be useful to people around them. Even if they live alone, they can go to a community center, something they practice for a few minutes every day or once or twice a week at least. That gives them the strength and confidence so that they can move forward in life. Practicing silence is very easy, very simple. You don't have to do any high-level meditation. And ultimately, the promise that my patients have shown me is there is no effort in this high life at all. It can be done completely effortlessly once we connect with the deeper source. I would say this is very similar to bicycling. Learning takes a few weeks, few months for some people. But once we learn to bike, the act of balancing takes zero effort from us. So similar to that, the act of self-inquiry itself can be done with close to zero effort. And all these little things we practice become so natural. So this is a busy slide trying to show us how we do this, connecting with the inner drive and goals, and then connecting with the conscious mind, body, exercise, diet, relationships, ultimately again reaching through this high life on an everyday basis. In summary, it is connecting with gratitude. From the gratitude comes different ways of fasting, and from that comes confidence to exercise, and then feeling more alive today. So that is what is self-inquiry, where your logic is excellent, but life is, I would say, 100 times bigger than our logical mind can comprehend. So that is what I'm inviting you to trust yourself and explore. So is this self-inquiry possible? This is a patient of mine who has a weight of 200 kilograms at the age of 40. He's dealing with so many organs that have completely failed: heart, kidney, lung. And at 40, because of his weight and no other reason, he's faced with death. He cannot go through heart transplant, kidney transplant, just because of the weight. It makes it too risky to put him through any surgery. Can he make it to 2022? That is the question. I don't know the answer. He has to find the answer, but I'm willing to show him the evidence from our experience over the last 5 to 10 years to try and give him a chance to survive. This is another patient who was able to undergo gastric bypass surgery at 2013, 7 years ago, and he lost about 50 kilograms. He gained quite a bit of health. But then over the last 5 years, that weight has slowly crept back up. And ultimately, if you compare from 7 years ago, his weight is nearly where it was originally. Unfortunately, he is now older, and he's now developed heart failure from this obesity problem. And those spikes that you see are a measure of heart failure in the blood. So that blood test tells us that in the last 2 years, he's had at least 4 or 5 episodes which were life-threatening. And if he does not change his course in the next year or two, he will also end up losing his life. This is the challenge that I am facing as a cardiologist in 60, 70-year-old people. But the result, I believe, the real solution will not come in only helping these patients, but in educating people who are not yet in heart failure, not yet having the problems. I want to work mostly with people who are teenagers in school and in college, so that they will learn the best methods to prevent these problems down the road. So I want to work with my patients, their children, and their grandchildren. That is the reason I'm connecting with you. When asked, Buddha says there is no path to happiness. Happiness itself is the path. So my simple request to all my friends and patients is smile 20 times every hour. A patient said, Doctor, wait, I cannot smile now. I have another 5 more years of work. I'll retire at 64. At that time, you tell me all these simple things to do. I said, no, you cannot wait 5 years to smile. When you can find a time to do this, that, and go to work, you find time in your work to smile. If you don't find a reason to smile, that is perfectly fine. Still smile. Because when we smile, we are able to break the connection between our stresses and our health. There is 1,000 reasons to be grateful. I'm sure some of you connected with some reasons to be grateful today. And that's why we meditated for a minute. It can be for simple events in our life. Like today, I'm so happy to come to India and visit so many of our friends. It can be for people and circumstances. Being a physician, I'm grateful because it gives me meaning and a connection with COVID, or even before COVID, so many heart patients. And people, the family and friends and colleagues in my work here, I'm so grateful for all these circumstances and people. This is 10,000 times bigger than small events that happen today, because this is over a bigger time scale, and there is an even bigger time span that you can be infinitely grateful for. If it's a live session, I'll ask, what is that? And as a student, when I presented this in a high school here in Columbia, Missouri, he stood up in front of 200 of his classmates and said, Doctor, you're asking what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful because I have a bed to sleep, a roof over me, and when I wake up in the morning, I'm grateful for the food I have. This is a 17-year-old kid. So that is being grateful as a natural state of existence itself. When a 17-year-old kid can perceive it and talk about it in front of 200 of his classmates, I'm sure we can find it in our heart today. So this is what I'm inviting you to. And then this comes the logical system. Maslow is very famous for describing how we evolved. If you look at, unfortunately, the people who are poor, dealing with hunger because of poverty, for them, the challenge is getting enough food, water, and rest. And then once that is secured, we go after safety. Then we seek relationships, meaningful connections, families, and friends. Once we have all these things secured, then people go for sense of accomplishment, work, success, and finally they go beyond all that and achieve one's fullest potential. People like, you could say, Einstein, Beethoven, who created music and amazing science beyond their time, they're considered to be self-actualized people. So Maslow, throughout his life, talked about this, and the entire world embraced it. But towards the end of his own life, 30 years later, he recognized there is something more than even self actualization. He called it transcendence. When you do things for no particular reason, just because it is your calling, he felt there are people who dedicate their lives, maybe like Anna Teresa, who given their life for things that are well beyond a simple human being's capacity. So he recognized that, but he did not have opportunity to write too much about it. So that's why it doesn't feature in his pyramid. Why do I put this when I say about gratitude? He talks about transcending each level. For me, my request to my heart patients and today to you is not to transcend these levels, but to connect with all these levels sincerely through your own gratitude. So we can still be grateful for food, not because we should not feel or take it for granted. We can still connect with it every day. So keep these things every day in your life, in your heart, so that that gratitude will give you the strength to get stronger, healthier. So this is, some of you might have come across this hunger scale. It goes from 10, which is feeling stuffed, having had such a good meal, to 7, which is just having a decent, healthy meal. And you should again start eating when you slightly feel hungry, which is at the level of 4. So if you cycle between 4 and 7, 3 times a day, you would be healthy. You will not overeat. That is the mindful eating method. If you go to 3, 2, or 1, you get too hungry, you starve, and then you overeat. So that is what mindful eating wants you to be careful about and avoid. This is good for people who are perfectly healthy, BMI of 22. If you're Indian, and BMI of 23 and a half, 24 if you're American. What if your BMI is 30, 35, 40, which is what we are now seeing more and more? Will this mindful eating be sufficient? I don't think so. So we have to push our limit, and that's what my patients have done. So before we go into what we do, let's recognize what is craving. Craving means just wanting to eat no matter what the time of the day, what we've eaten so far. And this craving persists despite having a meal, and we feel ashamed and guilty after eating. What is habitual eating? This is eating by the clock. I did this for 45 years of my life. I thought I had to eat 3 meals a day. Both my parents are physicians. That's what they taught me, and I did not question that. So for 45 years, I had 3 meals on the clock. Except if I was on call, I may actually have a meal little before or after working busy call schedules. So this is eating by convenience, and this helps us follow a routine which is disciplined. And this is a lot of times people who have sufficient access to food, when we consider eating is something we do out of necessity so that we can go ahead with some other bigger pursuits, where eating is sort of a waste of time. The last bit, eating out of real physical hunger, is because when hunger is felt only a few times in a day, people who are really hungry are much more open to any food. Actually, they are more open to healthy foods. And this hunger goes away with eating. And eating like this makes you grateful and satisfied. This is very different. And I did not even know this physical hunger, I would say, for 45 years of my life. Being a doctor, I had already done Heartful Living, this high life journey, for 3 years before I even perceived this hunger in my life. So now, in the last 2-3 years, intermittent fasting is becoming such a huge dietary style, because it improves immunity against COVID. You might be more resilient. It improves our risk for avoiding diabetes, weight control, heart disease, even cancer risk improves if we do intermittent fasting. What it is eating less than we are used to eating. If a healthy person eats 100% of whatever we can, that's what I did for 45 years. I ate whatever food I could without getting any health problems. Because I'm a doctor, I knew how much I can eat. Sedentary people may be overeating 50%. Obese people, even if though we are eating the same amount, we may be getting twice as much calories as we need. And people who are morbidly obese may have to be so much more careful. Ultimately, this is the graph we want to follow. Eating little lesser. I want to eat even lesser every time in the last 2 years. Sedentary people may be better off if they eat even lesser. If we are obese, we may have to really, really cut back on everything we eat so that we can move towards better health. Is this even possible? If we follow the 10 plan, it is not possible. Because if we cycle between 4 and 7, we cannot get to that number that we need to get to. What happens if we go to 3, 2, 1, we are dizzy, angry, starving? Will we faint? Will we die? The answer that I found out through a self-experimentation 2 years is this. We can find a way to smile even though we are hungry. Find some water, a couple of glasses of water, smile through it with gratitude. You will find that your body is not a petrol or gas-based car. It is actually a hybrid. It can go on electric for so long. That electric that the body already has is stored in the form of fat that is meant to be used, and the body may not have been trained to use it if you had given it years of no interval between eating. So if you allow the body to go into natural ketosis, this is the best form of ketosis. This is not ketogenic diet. This is the fat in the body being mobilized to burn fuel for us to survive. And this can go on for much longer. So intermittent fasting is a learned lifestyle with numerous health benefits. And ketosis is reached once or maybe twice a week. And the idea is to finish the fast and go back to our life. Whereas hunger is perceived as an unpleasant thing you cope with, and you may be able to achieve 20-30% calorie restriction. That is not sufficient for my patients because they are older, sicker, and they cannot exercise. We teach hunger-based gratitude experience, which is a continuous form of fasting. It is not even a diet. It's not a lifestyle. It is actually a meditative self-inquiry practice. And the benefits are not only physical, the benefits are, I would say, even more profound psychologically. It gives us so much mental confidence. And the natural ketosis can be reached every day. And people are actually grateful for being alive, and that is being perceived as hunger. Hunger is gracefully accepted, and you can go 20, 40, 60, 70% calorie restriction. This cannot be achieved without hospital supervised program where every day you check your blood cholesterol, electrolyte, and sugar levels and supervise them. In a hospital setting, it is possible, but my patients have done this at their home safely, and they sustained it for years together. And that is what I bring to you today. This is the hunger-based gratitude experience, which gets you all the benefits of intermittent fasting. And because it is a meditative practice, the benefits are to prevent depression, anxiety, compliance with anything else you want to do, smoking cessation, exercise, connecting meaningfully with people in your life, so much more with your academic accomplishments. The sky is the limit. You are so much more connected with your subconscious potential, and you can reach for the sky based on connecting through hunger. This is what WHO recommends. 50 to 70% carbohydrates, protein about 10%, fat less than 10%, I would think, 10 to 15%, so that we can stay healthy with more than 400 grams of predominantly vegetables and some fruits, avoiding all empty sugars. This is what WHO says throughout the world. Women, 12,000 calories, men, 2,500 calories is what the US recommends. But this has crossed 3,600 calories in the last 30-40 years with a 25% increase since 1961 in the US. In India, rural is creeping up, but in urban India, this has already happened. That's why we are seeing so much obesity. Calorie restriction has thousands of benefits, but to summarize them, insulin resistance, diabetes, all these things can disappear. Longevity improves so much. What about if I'm already healthy? My BMI is only 25. Is there any benefit for this type of dieting? These are two monkeys. Both are 27 years old, which is reasonably aged You see that on the left side, but on the right side, this monkey looks insanely young and healthy, although it is also 27 years old. The reason for that is this monkey has been restricted in calories by 30%. And that has resulted in this monkey having much lesser cancer, much lesser cardiovascular disease, and no diabetes at all. When they did this experiment for 2 years, the monkeys that normally aged and died in blue, you see it here, the ones in the red, they did not die. They felt younger, they were living longer. Doctor, this works in monkeys. What about other life forms? Starting from single cell bacteria to worms and insects and snakes and rats and dogs, all life forms live 10, 20, 50, 100, sometimes even 300% of their life expectancy. For humans, it is expected it can be up to 120 years. We don't have an experiment with humans up to 120 years with this diet, but there are some people who are already embracing it. So the mechanism this helps through is inflammation. We are able to reduce this by reducing cancer, heart disease, dementia, which is going to be a huge problem for the coming generations. And this is measured in CRP. You can test it through your doctor locally and see where your high sensitivity CRP level is. And people have shown this can come down substantially through calorie restriction. This is a study already done in humans and published recently, where 200 people took who had normal BMI of 25. They took a 25% calorie restriction for 2 years and lost 10 kilograms. And from being healthy 30-year-olds, they showed their blood pressure, cholesterol, insulin profile, all these things became like a teenager. 30, 40-year-old becoming like 20 or 25-year-old is what was shown scientifically in human beings for 2 years. Obviously, at the end of 2 years, many of them returned to their routine life. We don't know how they are doing today. But generally, this is the curve that we can expect. If we voluntarily cut down on calories from whatever we believe is our health span, we can increase it significantly by restricting calories 20 to 30%. If we restrict our calories beyond 30%, 40%, it's going to become unhealthy. But we have to eat food. We cannot survive without it. This is a patient who participated in our program. He's a faculty in our university. At 69, walking a few minutes, he'll get short of breath. But because he participated in our high life, he became so inspired to take up exercise. And now he's going and winning running competitions and sending us these medals so that future participants can be inspired. So Valluvar said so long ago that importance of gratitude. Nandri marappadu nandrendru, nandralladu andre marappadu nandru. He says if you can forget unnecessary things right away, the heart can be filled with gratitude throughout life. That's what he has taught us. And for hunger, we know what he said. And for being passionate, he says, ஒளி ஒருவருக்குள்ள வெறுக்கை இளி ஒருவருக்கு அத்திறந்து வாழ்து மெடல். We put these three things together as a skit for our Pongal celebration here in Columbia, Missouri. But the reality is these are such important concepts that we need to connect in our life. Gratitude, as much as we can build in our life, we'll find that we can cope with the challenge of being hungry more and more. And that way, the passion and connection with our life exponentially increases. This is a 50-year-old patient of us who ended up with a heart attack. His heart stopped. He was revived, underwent stenting. This was his ECG. He participated in our program. And if you look at how his breathing is, in a scale of 1 to 10, his breathing is getting harder when he's exercising on the treadmill. His heart rate is increasing, which is expected. And when the breathing gets to 10, which is the maximum anybody can withstand, he stops. But on some occasions, he's able to go on without the treadmill stopping. And exercising suddenly becomes easier because he's one in few occasions he's reaching what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi described 35 years ago as flow experience, which is optimal engagement with a task, freedom from self-consciousness, intrinsically enjoyable. And he says, as long as you have increasing skill and you challenge yourself sufficiently, you can achieve it. He described this with playing tennis and creating music like A.R. Rahman or Ilayaraja when they sit and write new music. But this can be achieved by anybody doing dishes, cleaning house, cooking, anything we do, we can try to find this if we connect with our own gratitude. In 1970s, when he described it, the worst thing was watching television. Now we have even more challenging things for our health, like social media. Even the news has become so much more sensationalized. So I tell my patients, don't watch news. Just connect with your life yourself. So the habitual eating is unfortunately most of what we do. I invite you to feel real hunger and through that connect with gratitude. And you will find being hungry is so natural to you. And that way you will enter flow, find more life in today experience itself. So whether you're trying to lose weight or just enjoying life or whatever the situation may be, if you want to win in an athletic event or if you are doing this as a meditative practice, no matter what, you will find this hunger gratitude experience is actually life affirming. The reason I say this is from experience with a few patients I want to leave you with. This is a 69-year-old with so many heart problems, I don't even want to go into details. Her weight has not dropped significantly in the last couple of years, but she still deals with so many health issues, and this is what she has to say to us. What do you feel grateful about?
That I wake up every morning.
Excellent. You started out saying that you're an optimistic person.
I've always been optimistic and always figured I had at least the glass half full.
Now, how do you look at your life?
That my glass is always full and overflowing.
What do you... So this is another friend of mine. For him, the question is not half full or half empty. When I took this picture, he had not eaten anything for 51 days. He was in the hospital because he got so weak. This is not something we recommend, but this is his graph. He lost so much weight in those 54 days of fasting. He gained some of it back as he's built back the muscle. But the important thing is, despite having severe heart disease and so many other heart issues, he's not kept that appointment with open heart surgery yet. He believes, after participating in our program, that yes, I can take care of my health. He's off 23 medicines. He was on 28 medicines to start with. So most of it he has stopped because he's now connecting more with that inner gratitude. And I had to go get him from local store more healthy fruits because the hospital diet does not have that much vegan type of diet that he's now embraced in the last 6 months. He's now totally vegan. This is another patient who's 73. He does not have too much to look forward to, and he is morbidly obese. He's too high risk for surgery. He's been in our program now for close to a year. He continues to stay hungry. That is the message. I have not given him surgery. And he feels 10 years younger. He's off about half the medicines that we started him on. But every night he goes to bed hungry. Only one meal he has and maybe a little bit of fruit if he's needing that in the day. So I asked him to fast 2 times a week. He's doing it 6 days in a week. This last patient I'll leave you with is a 59-year-old. The graph that you're seeing is their weight that's coming down. This is a 59-year-old with heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and hypertension. And she has lost 60 pounds in the first 3 months after following our diet. And now she's asking after 2 years, what more can I do to get even healthier? They get more energized. It's not through gastric bypass surgery. It is through connection with their own confidence. That's all this is. So this is the last thing I leave you with. Every day I look at a person's heart. And this is my job. I know what their height and weight is because it's part of the report. And I know their BMI, their challenges. And this is 2 people who have different aging inside. Their chronological age is based on your date of birth, but their biological age is what predicts the future. The one on the left looks like a 75-year-old. The one on the right looks like a 45-year-old, although both these people are exactly 60 years of age. So how are we going to live our life? Are we going to find ways to stay young, stay healthy, stay active, stay as alive as we can and fight through this COVID? Or are we going to succumb to the societal pressures and worry about this rat race that is not only affecting us mentally, physically, and taking away our health, but also prematurely causing us to get into heart trouble? So that choice is ours. And through this high life journey, I will hopefully have all these lectures and information available for you to track yourself and gain more health through this process. So these are my collaborators. And this is a list of people. I especially want to thank my good friend of 20, 30 years, Tyagarajan, who runs a company in Coimbatore, which is helping me develop this website, High Life Journey, and behavioral psychologists who are helping me write $1 million grant so that we can study in 30 kids how this altruism may help them become more compassionate towards the community and, more importantly, trust themselves better as teenagers. And the nutrition and exercise physiologists who Jill Kennelly I worked with last 10 years to develop these dietary programs. My father, Dr. Chokalingam, who may be here, who spoke to this group 2 weeks ago. My sister, Priya, who is pioneering cardiac wellness in India, and machine learning engineering faculty here at the university, and VA, which has allowed me to do this program for 5 years with the leadership, Robert Ritter, and my colleagues in Columbia, Missouri, and in India who helped us do this work over the last 10 years. Thanks so much for giving me this opportunity to be with you. I have another 200 slides we can connect with again and do it some more, because it's the 8-week course, and not only what I teach my patients, what they teach me back is actually even more humbling and enlightening experience for me. So I'll stop here so that we'll have a chance to have some discussion and go from there. Thank you.
Hi, Doctor.
Hello.
Yeah, it was a very nice presentation. So there are, we missed out a few polls what you have asked us to give. So on the left side, if you can see the polls, like the intermittent fasting, lifestyle changes and all. So all the participants have filled in the polls. So can you have a look at it and
let's talk about it? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm pulling up the question, and we can actually share that on this.
No, once you view it, I've already shared it with the audience.
Okay, so I can just view it then.
Yeah, once you view it,
we can expect living healthy to 50, 70, 90, 100 years. A third of people are very confident. Congratulations. You believe you can live to 100 years. That belief is everything. Whatever I say is only secondary. Congrats to that 1/3. For the other 2/3, today you know that it is possible. So from today, all of us can believe that we not only can live 100, but we can live healthy 100 years. Excellent. Next question. Intermittent fasting reduces diabetes risk. 5% said yes, 50% risk reduction, 14%, 90% got the correct answer. Yes, majority of the diabetes, 95% of diabetes is lifestyle. Only 5% is type 1 diabetes, which is because of, we don't know the exact mechanism, it may be some autoimmune problem, but usually it affects children, and without insulin, they cannot survive. So it's not by diet that they can get better, they'll actually get more ill if they try to fast. So for them, insulin is needed, but for 95% of diabetics, lifestyle has a significant benefit. For us in India, diabetes has become such a huge issue, so really we need to recognize this issue. The third question is, lifestyle changes can reduce heart attack. Many people got this right. 90% of it can be reduced. Yes, that's true. In a week, how many hours exercise do we get? 4 to 5 times a week we are exercising. Majority of us, that's excellent. 2 to 3 times, some of us, less than 2 hours, 20% of the people. So after today, I'm sure people will find more reason, more excuse to get out and exercise. Next time we'll talk about moving naturally. Instead of exercising, that's what I recommend, moving naturally. That means exercise is not something you do. It is something that happens because the way you have structured your life, because you love to play some sport or enjoy connecting with somebody, exercising or getting to work or even standing and working. So many things we can do to try and get more physical exercise built into our day. So that's what would be even more healthy. Excellent.
Yes.
The next question is in a week. That's the last one. So we got all of it.
Yes.
Very
So,
good.
yes. Can we move on to the question and answer session?
Please.
Yes. Srinath, can you unmute certain mics who have raised their hands? I'm unable to do from here. Srinath?
Yes, Sudarshan. I'm trying to do it.
Yes. Dr.
One
Chokalingam
B.
is trying to raise the hand.
One Mr. B. Ganesh is available online and has
Yeah.
been unmuted now. He can raise his questions.
Mr. B. Ganeshan, you can ask your question, please.
Yes,
Dr. Chokalingam, you are online. You can talk, sir.
Able to hear me, Srinath? Hello?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Anand?
Hello, Dad. How are you?
Oh, fine. Your talk, even though I have been repeatedly asking or seeing that one, it looks as though I am seeing for the first time. So every time I get a lot of nice points, Anand. I really appreciate. And few
Thanks for joining.
questions I would like to ask you. One, those who are really very poor, they cannot have any food like that. I've seen them obese very often. Poorer the people, they don't have food like that. How they become obese?
Excellent. This question we need 1 hour to answer.
Very
But
shortly.
unfortunately, I will say the situation in the US, because this is where I've been living now for the last 20 years. Bottled water costs more than soda. Coke and Pepsi are less expensive than water. The burger that you get in a fast food restaurant is available for $1, and that meal is full of such a huge Coke and such a big burger and fries. So all these fries, burger, Coke that people are able to easily acquire and fill their stomach, unfortunately, much of that is not nutritious. It is a lot of sugar without nutrition. So it leaves people more obese and less healthy and craving for more food. So we are left with eating more, needing more, and not getting the nutrition that we need. If you go to salad or vegetables and fruits and healthy things, they become incrementally more expensive. First, the knowledge, what is healthy, is not available. Then access to food is a challenge. And then, because they are running to get more work done, get not just 1, 2 jobs, sometimes even 3 jobs to make enough money, they are not having time to cook. So they are getting more packaged foods, processed foods. So all these are societal challenges that are not easy to overcome. But by the time they come to me as a cardiologist, I'm telling them different things which are not easy to transition to. But this is the reason we are seeing this combination of poverty that manifests as obesity. And that is a huge risk factor. The lack of education, lack of resources, financial poverty is, I would say, the biggest risk for obesity also. In developing countries like Africa, India, poverty may appear like marasmic, bone thin and no muscle, and that type of very thin children you will see. But nowadays, not only in the US, but also in developing countries like India, in the cities, we are seeing a combination of poverty with excess weight.
Very good, Anand. Another small question. What about that paleo diet? They say it is the cure for diabetes. How far you are going to advise or you accept it? How do you believe in that paleo diet?
We had a recent debate. That word paleo is not used here that much. I think currently they're just calling it keto diet for the most part. Because 10,000 years ago, we started agriculture. rice, wheat, corn, all these things became systematically available to us so that we don't have to keep moving around as nomads, hunter-gatherers. And in these 10,000 years, because of agriculture, we were able to develop civilizations, cultures, religions, societies, languages. All these things developed because we were able to gather and spend time together, collective intelligence. So the diet that precedes this, that avoids the burst of calorie that you get from high nutritive rice and wheat, is what is paleo diet, or keto diet is what it is called in the US for the most part, I would think. And there was a big debate in our College of Cardiology between keto diet, plant-based whole food diet, and Mediterranean diet, which has Mediterranean is the one that is proven in heart disease. And there is another diet which is called DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So that's proven in high blood pressure. So these are some of the important diets: paleo, keto together, plant-based diet, DASH diet, Mediterranean diet. But the reality is, all the diets people give up within 1 to 2 years, because people are people. They cannot sustain any diet for long. I'm talking about 95% people giving up these diets within 1 to 2 years. So my request is not to worry about this diet or that food or that drink. Connect with your food, enjoy it, but try to connect through hunger. Hunger should be the ticket to food. It should not be the clock. It should not be emotional craving. And if you ask which is the diet that won in that debate, the diet that won was plant-based whole food nutrition. Indian food is so easily cooked without, I would say, that much meat, because we are in India, we are not that meat centric. But still, in Indian diet, the risk comes from, I would say, dairy products and oil. That is where we get most of the risk from, and frying a lot of the foods and processed snacks and chips and that sort of thing. And that Indian diet also now involves a lot of soda and Gatorade and energy drinks and so many other things. So the challenges are many, but the solution, I think, is simple: one word: being grateful for being hungry.
Another thing, another last question. I saw one of your slides, the ladder like that. You are putting hunger scale. That what you written there, eat slowly, and then target zone and danger zone. Can you go back to the slide by chance? Not that one, that multicolored, that is a 1 to 4, 1 to 3, then 4 to 7 you stressed. Not that one, that one. No. 1 second. This one. I think the topmost, I think is a spelling mistake, or do you really mean something?
No, I just got it from the internet. So that is a starving. That's what it is. Starving, feeling weak or dizzy.
No, the spelling mistake is there. Did you observe that?
Correct.
I observe. It is, what starving, I thought is different one you are trying to communicate.
It is starving. If we are really hungry, we end up overeating. That's what they're trying to tell us to avoid.
Okay.
Don't go
so
that.
Sometimes even textbooks or your nets may be mistake. When you are getting into that, you must be careful. But
Yes,
only thing is, how far you will be really stick on to this one? How much percentage you can, suppose you are going to take 100 people now. How do you feel? How many percentage will be motivated to follow what Anand is telling? How many percent do you feel?
I invite them to this Heartful Living program. About half of them are willing to step in. Once they come in and they connect with themselves, then there is no limit. They 100% compliance after that.
I think because you are teaching constantly, reinforcing you to follow that strictly, maybe like that you are enjoying doing that one as a passion. I think all of them must be very happy. I am very happy yourself, and Priya is doing the same thing. Your mother is there. She wants to say hello to you, Anand.
Hello, Anand.
Hello, Ma. Glad you joined.
Really enjoyed your speech again. Hearing the same topic. It was really wonderful and listening to you.
Excellent. So I want my parents to follow this new diet so that they can not only live 100 but live even longer. They are already going to live 100. So if they follow this, they will be the first people getting to 120 healthy years.
Anand, what is the huge? Thanks for your wishes. What is the huge one? What is the HUG?
Hunger gratitude experience. So
What?
it's not just fasting, it is basically meditative gratitude.
Hunger. What is that? Repeat.
Hunger gratitude experience.
Okay.
Anand, can I question you? Thanks for that very informative this thing. So
Yes.
I just want to know that I am a person who just eats by routine. I don't wait to be. I mean, if it's 9, I have to have my breakfast. If it's 1:30, my lunch. If it's 7, my dinner. So, do you still think I should change and only go for when I am hungry and eat and not by the clock?
If your BMI is below 21, I would say don't follow me, because my program is meant for people who are heavier or normal weight.
You
Because
know me. I'm like, my weight is normal. My weight is well within my height range.
Yes.
But I don't
So,
know my BMI.
but the latest thing is through this high life journey, in another week, we'll put all the information for you to experiment with yourself. BMI, we can go closer and closer towards 20, 21. And if we are getting there through this gratitude experience, it will not only make you more healthy, even younger, but give you more confidence to cope with other life challenges. See, COVID is something none of us knew in 2019.
Yeah.
2021, we don't know what it is going to bring into our lives. So this method is not only teaching us physical health, but also giving us mental resilience. That is why I really bring this to you. So that today we want to become more strong and able to cope with life and its challenges. So for that aspect, this hunger gratitude experience, I really recommend to everything they can participate in this.
Thanks, Anand. That was really informative.
Thank
Well
you,
done.
Thank you.
Doc, can I ask a question? This is Sham here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I have been following at least during the COVID period, I have been following this once a week, 24-hour fasting. But because of the climate in Chennai, I feel pretty dehydrated, so I don't drink just water. I drink lime juice and at times coconut water. Is that all right, or should I stick to only water?
Ideally, only water. 0 calories is the best. And since you've done this much transition, you'll find that little more transition is also possible. We have to be very, very careful if we are insulin or sulfonyl barionides, that sort of medicine. If we are taking for diabetes, we have to be careful. But for most other anti-diabetic medicines, we can just continue this fasting. We can just stop the medicine for the day and go on with this. And we are now trying to do this for people with diabetes also on a more formal basis. So in another year or two, we'll have more evidence for that. But the answer is fasting means 0 calories. Even there's a little bit of calories in all these things. So the food benefit you may not get. That is the only reason.
But is there something, because I find that water sometimes is not enough, because you perspire a lot in Chennai, and it does make me feel a little tired. Is it the lack of salt in the system, or is it just that because I have to get used to being without
medicines, they can stop the blood pressure medicines, first step. And then if you're still getting like that, then it might be good to take some electrolytes, little bit of salt, lime or something. It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice, very enjoyable. This is the first time I sat through a online session. I did have a session with you at your hospital when I visited you. But thank you very much.
I'm so glad that this evidence might inspire you to do some more towards our own health. Excellent.
Yes, certainly we'll work on it. I'll work on it. Thank you.
Yes, Doctor, there's Mr. Pandurangan who would like to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pandurangan? Yes, he's having some technical issue, I think. Yeah, there's Divya Sriram. She wants to ask you a question. Divya Sriram, you are online. You can ask Doctor a question.
Okay, thank you. Hello, doctor. Good evening.
Good evening.
So my question to you is, how long can a breastfeeding mother fast? Like, for example, I'm doing a 14 to 15 hours fast every day. I'm still feeding on demand my 15 months daughter. And I also have issues like polycystic ovarian syndrome and marginal thyroid, which is in range. So I would like to know more about intermittent fasting.
Excellent. See, I'm a cardiologist. That means I take care of people who are, at least in the US, having this problem mostly in their 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I don't deal with many younger people. If you look at the
Okay.
science for women, it is not as robust, at least in the scientific Western literature, as far as intermittent fasting. And what I'm going to answer is mostly out of my intuition. And I believe much of this metabolic problems can others silence their mic because there may be some extra noise coming in through the system. So, for the most part, the answer to your question is don't fast. As long as you're feeding, you should not be fasting at all because feeding takes a lot of energy and you want to do it right. After you wean from feeding, then you can slowly start working towards this. That would be my simple recommendation. And even in our own institution, we have some new studies saying for women that sense of hunger may be even more. Men may be able to withstand this type of fasting longer. Maybe because if you look at our 200,000, 2 lakh year evolution as human beings, most of that time, women have focused on taking care of children in a small radius, whereas men have been the one going out for food. So they might have had to deal with more adversity through evolution, whereas women have not had the chance to, what I would say is, expose themselves to longer periods of lack of food. So try this slowly. That's my suggestion. You don't have to go suddenly to 24 hours. You can try overnight of 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. Up to that, I believe even healthy people can do comfortably. After that, going longer for 18 hours, 20 hours, 24 hours, once a week. These things gradually you can try if you're interested in getting to a BMI below 25, but not while being pregnant or while feeding, things like that. Did I answer the question?
Sure, doctor. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Same thing for children also. Below the age of 18, fasting is not recommended. I spoke with a pediatric endocrinologist, and she feels 14 hours is for every human being. It's no big deal. All of us, even children, can go to bed at 7 p.m. I mean, stop any more food by the time 7 p.m. comes around, brush their teeth, and then they can be active for another 2-3 hours in the day before they go to sleep at 10 or whatever. And then until 9 a.m., nobody needs anything else to go into the mouth. So it can be 14 hours for everybody. But beyond that, for children, is not recommended up to the age of 18, unless they are really obese, for which we'll have to individualize recommendations.
There is Balaji Krishnan who would like to ask you a question. Mr. Balaji, your mic is mute. Kindly unmute and ask the question, please.
Hi, Anand.
Hello, Balaji. Do you want to introduce yourself? People don't know who you are.
I'm a school friend of Anand here. I'm a dentist. I was very glad to listen to my dear close friend here. I've never seen him doing a cardiology talk like a webinar. For the first time, I'm seeing him doing this. He has given awesome information. Usually, he gives all this information personally to me. I'm glad that you are educating a group of people. I'm very glad, Anand, that you gave the talk today, and I'm fortunate to sit down and listen to you. Really great.
I've been talking about eating healthy to Dr. Balaji for the last 35, 40 years. I've known him as a child. But now we have the new evidence done in not only monkeys, but also in human beings, they've done studies to show that getting lower BMI is actually stopping and reversing the aging process. So that alone, I believe, is the real motivation towards the health that we've been given, so that we can preserve it in this lifetime. So I'm glad you joined us, Balaji. What is your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a clarification. I mean, for the basically, I know the difference, but I thought the people also should know about this. Generally, when you go to a cardiologist, they say avoid salt. When you are a hypertensive patient, they say avoid salt because it could be damaging to your kidneys or whatever it is. So, in general, the Indian perception of salt is the salt which we add along with the curd or along with the food. But I think you should educate the public what actually salts are, which other foods do you find today in our quick world. Like you said, there are so many burgers, then you have the sauces, and you have the pickles, the Indian thing, so that you can tell them, for them to understand.
Excellent. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes, doctor.
You're seeing my screen. Okay.
Yes.
Is it on full screen display?
Yes.
So these are new diabetic medicines. It's a long list. If you see here, most of them don't have risk of hypoglycemia, okay, except glyburide, sulfonylureas. We have to be careful with them. If you look at insulin, they all have high risk of causing hypoglycemia. So we have to be able to cut the insulin dose by half or even more if you want to do fasting. Then comes Dr. Balaji's question. What is to be avoided? When I don't have too much time with individual patient, I have to go through diet very quickly. I tell them, avoid anything that tastes good. They laugh. And then I keep my face serious. And then they realize this doctor is really asking me to stop eating anything that's tasty. Unfortunately, our taste has evolved to crave for salt and sugar. That is what is packaged into what you see in all these pictures, all these patented drinks and their formulas. They have so much insane amount of sugar in them, the cola drinks. And then if you look at our Indian snacks, they have too much oil built into them and carbohydrates without any real nutritive value. So it's all what we think is acquired. And the biggest challenge is to educate my heart patients to avoid energy drinks like Powerade, Gatorade. Even cardiologists send their children to school here with Gatorade bottle. Nobody needs to drink Gatorade unless you're exercising continuously for 6-7 hours. You cannot sit down for a meal. If you're running a marathon, basically, you need a Gatorade to survive. Otherwise, we don't need that because we are fasting to remove the excess salt in our body. We are exercising to get rid of the excess salt in the body. And if we give that extra salt back, we are beating the purpose. So salt is not good. And sweets have too much sugar. I mean, we found ways of packaging sugar into these sweets. And for Diwali, being a cardiologist's son, we were gifted with so many sweets, which we will redistribute among our friends and family. Growing up, I never consumed sweet. What I ended up consuming, which was unhealthy for me, is not even in this picture, because my dad is a cardiologist, and most of these things we did not have in our home at all. This is what we had in our home. We enjoy going and having friends, families, weddings, and enjoying our South Indian thali meal. The challenge there is the rice. White rice is not good. Salt is not good. Sugar is not good. And sugar put into all these sweets is not good. Frying is not good. Even white bread and white barotas, chapatis, all these things are directly high density carbohydrates, calories that our body just doesn't metabolize. It shuttles it directly into the fat source. And when are we going to that bank and using that stored fat? We are never going. We're only putting more and more food in there. To get that food out, you had to listen to this 1 hour talk about natural ketosis, how to go to starving and then switch to that. And that is what we need to do to get all that out. We can take the next 5 years, 10 years. It's not a quick process, but we should do it with gratitude so that it becomes more natural to us. and we can sustain in that journey towards health. And the journey is not going to be tiresome, it's going to be fun, just like so many of my challenged patients have shown to us today that it is possible in their lives. So this is what we are left with. What is healthy? If it's not salt, how much is allowed means it's 2 grams of salt is allowed. And then these are the things that are really, really nutritious. All the vegetable in the world that you can eat, less cooked, just mildly cooked without any oil, that is the way to have it. Plenty of spices you can add with little salt. So 2 grams of salt or even lesser we can suffice. And then fruits, most of the fruits are fine. Actually, all the fruits are fine. Nobody is going to get obese from the fruits. And multigrain bread, quinoa, brown rice, all these things, we have to still portion control very carefully. That too in South India, we are used to more rice. And the paruppugal, the lentils, they are all excellent. And the salads, they are excellent. And nuts, they are actually very good. They give good, I would say, satiety, feeling of fullness. And all the healthy things should form the first part of our meal. For me, the healthiest thing, if I'm really hungry after 2 hours of tennis, is I drink 2 glasses of water and then sit down for a good meal. Then there is not that much room to have food. And even there, I ensure I get sufficient amount of vegetables. And that's how I would recommend to move forward. So the same meal we can have. I've been through a Western plant-based program for 6 months. But I believe our South Indian food is so beautifully designed for health. We just have to cut down a little more on the rice, move it to a brown rice, and then focus so much more on the fruit, the vegetables, and the kootugal, which have that sort of thing, lentils, and then we can do so much good to our health that way. We don't have to give up our delicious food. We have to give up some things, but we don't have to change dramatically. We have the best shot of a healthy diet compared to any other culture in the whole world. That much I can say after tasting all the different foods that are available throughout the world. I'll stop here and open up for more questions.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Priya Chokalingam is here also. She would like to ask some questions, I think.
Yes, Priya. Why don't you introduce yourself also?
Hi guys, I'm Priya Chokalingam here. I'm Anand's sister, Dr. Chokkalingam's daughter. As Anand, and I'm grateful that you also acknowledge me. Though the thing is, we all share the common goal of improving people's lifestyle and as well as good quality of life, providing good quality of life to our people. So that was an excellent session, Anand. Thanks for that. My main question is the 4 components, cornerstones in the high life journey. So for a novice like me or like many of our participants who are new to this, which would be I'm sure you would advise them to take it step by step. I mean, if they try to do all 4 things overnight, they're probably going to give up out of frustration. So which 1 or 2 would be the top priority to start with, and then how would you build up on this 4-step model?
Excellent. So when we look at, thanks so much, Priya, for joining and bringing attention back to our future. This is, so far we discussed the basis, but this is the future that I'm requesting you all to explore. The website is ready. You can go in there, highlifejourney.org, but we are still fine-tuning and tweaking some more aspects of it. So within a week, it will be more easily accessible for you to register and track your own health for the next few years, not just a few weeks. And all this is going to be completely free. There is no charge. We are just making it available through the help of Red Leaf. My friend Tyagarajan in Coimbatore has kindly put all this together. The question, how and which one we want to participate. The 4 things that you see in white color, these are the conscious efforts. 1 is fasting, 2 is exercise, 3 is self-talk, and the last thing is doing some act of kindness. But inside that circle, you see the inner life. That is all at the subconscious level. So the design is so that the subconscious is activated every aspect of this inner high life journey. To be hungry, I want you to first connect with your gratitude. And to exercise, connect with the Vogue Dyspnea Index. We'll spend more time on it on another session, but that's a scale of 1 to 10 that will be available on the website. 10 is the maximum exercise a body person can tolerate. I can't breathe. 1 is just very casually sitting and chatting like today we are doing. So you can go up to 6, 7, and if you're healthy and don't have any heart trouble, in the first week itself you can go to 9 or 10. We cannot sustain it for more than 2 or 3 minutes, even if we are walking at 10. So we'll have to slow down some more and go up. But documenting where we are. The third is silence. Silence is not available to us. Silence is something we have to force. Meditation is a big word. You may want to go to some schools to learn that, but silence is a privilege we all can experience. 5 minutes sitting down quietly. But to sit down, first 2 minutes, if you can use it to talk something aloud, that's a sports psychology concept where we do self-talk to motivate and perform very well. Sports is very, very close to finding flow, finding the highest, I would say, highlight of life can be achieved through sports. But remember, you have to participate, not watch the sport on television. That is very different. That is very passive experience. Go ahead and try some sport, some activity, not don't watch it on the television. But that silence is important. And this last thing, altruism, that is the one where we are trying to get a huge NIH grant so that kids can take it up and show for themselves that they can be useful to people in their community. And by being compassionate, they will become so much more confident and trusting of themselves, because that is what is lacking in modern day society. I'm sure you are aware of so much challenges from not only COVID, but also disparities and racial conflicts, so many things, gun violence, all these problems the US is facing. I'm sure India is facing its own set of challenges. So all these solutions are individual. It's not through any organization or religion or any country. It is open for you to explore yourself. So the answer to Priya's question, which one should the person try? I would like children to try altruism first because they're already physically active. I'd like silence to be tried by everybody. So it's mind, body, and soul. We talk about 3 levels, right? For the body, you can look at it as fasting. For the, I would say fasting for the mind. For the body, it is the exercise. And self-talk is to connect with that subconscious. And this altruism will connect you holistically with the people around you. Society and connection with others actually makes us grounded and related to ourselves. So that connection with others is so important. So you can try whichever one works for you. And if somebody just pursues one of this, they may get a lot of health benefits. Some may choose to try 3 or even 4 of these. And through this High Life website, we may be able to track how many people get how much better over the next 2 years. If we have 10,000 people signing up to this program, big data may give us the answer to Priya's question in the next 2 years. So right now, I believe all 4 are really useful. For you, I'm inviting you to try one at a time. Every week, try one more. And you'll find more and more educational and inspiring stuff on our website over the next few weeks that will guide you towards these processes. And I'm expecting to get children to participate in their kindness acts so that those also you can see in our website. And that will inspire us to do a little better every day with our life. Somebody else is not hungry. We are hungry, and somebody is going without food tonight. So that much connection we can get with our world. See, COVID has made us one world. That's why I'm with you in India today because of COVID. That's why we have to perceive the need of our community. And we've done that through hurricane and so many things. Chennai has come together as an amazing community like that. Throughout the world, people can come together as one community and overcome the challenges that we are facing as society as well as individuals.
Thank you for that very nice answer. I think that really throws some clarity as to how to start and how to go about it. But as you said, it's very individualized. So I think each of us has to experience it for ourselves.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Bri.